Hello there, welcome back to another Cloud with Chris weekly vlog. You're with me, Chris Reddington, and here we talk about all things cloud. Now thanks once again for joining and tuning in for this weekly vlog today. We're now weekly vlog number 11. Can you believe number 11? Almost 3 months of doing this weekly vlog. Really exciting, and thank you for all of the support. So we've got a few things to talk about today. What's happened on Cloud with Chris recently, what's coming up with Cloud with Chris, some of the Azure related news, the Azure DevOps news and the GitHub news as the usual setup. So wasting no time, let's go ahead and jump over to the screen. So for anyone listening and you did not get to see the lovely new animation that I've got here and some of the new setup for the videos. So you'll notice that I've been really working on the branding once again and trying to improve what was there because I wasn't quite happy with some of the background when we've got guests and things in place there. So now I'm a little more happy. It looks a little more how I want it to be. So let me know in the comments what you think about that if you're watching, and obviously if you're listening in, you'll just have to imagine something truly awesome. So as you can see on the screen here, first things first, last week kicked off with weekly vlog number 10 where we talked about things like the fact I had an episode backlog until mid-July. That is now actually until mid-August, so that is absolutely awesome. Getting a lot of traction there with guests coming onto the show. The new microphone, of course, so hopefully the audio is sounding very good for you all once again, and we covered a lot of the Ignite content last week as well. Then on Wednesday did part 3 of my GPG, GitHub and Git commit series, and this one really focused on looking at how you go and associate the GPG keys with your Git commits. So we set up the GPG keys previously, we've now gone and aligned them with the Git commits, and then what we did is showed how we can link that over to GitHub then as well. So none of this is really about the UB keys yet that we mentioned previously in these series. That's going to be in part 4, which will be coming this week. So again, if you're interested in DevSecOps and Git and GitHub and how you can make sure you're verifying the commits are from those who they say they are, check out that blog. That'll be one for you. And then on Friday, another of my architecting for the cloud one pattern at a time series. This time it was one pattern, unlike some of the previous episodes there. And you can see I got a little guest in there with me, the Bit plushie. So thanks to the Microsoft UK dev team for sending me that. And as you can see, he's kind of on the wall behind me there. So I had my guest there for that. So this one was all about the cache aside pattern and all about how you can leverage a cache when the cache itself doesn't necessarily allow you to synchronize behind your backend store. So being able to go ahead and easily set up some of that synchronization in some way. Cache aside pattern is a pattern to help you with that. If you're interested, go and check out that video for more. So what's coming up this week? Very busy week actually this week. I was kind of looking at my diary before recording this and then realized, wow, how busy it is. So Tuesday, so March the 16th, another meetup for Azure Thames Valley. This one is with Alan Eardley, and we're going to be talking about security and compliance core concepts explained. Very interesting title, very interesting talk description there. This is all, I think, relevant to today's world, right? When you think about security in the current IT world that we live in, thinking about some of the recent supply chain attacks, for example, that have been going on, this is something super critical, really important to understand. And I think this is going to be a very interesting talk from Alan. So if you're somewhere along your cloud journey and just interested in some of these maybe foundational concepts, cross-cutting concepts, take a look because I think that will be interesting. What else? So obviously, this is the recording for weekly vlog number 11, so that will be out on Monday. Then on Wednesday, it'll be part 4 of my GPG GitHub Git series, as I just mentioned a bit earlier. This one will be really focusing on the UB key aspect. So focusing on how you take those private keys that you've generated, put them onto the kind of UB key that you can take with you. So it's not on the machine itself anymore. So if the machine gets compromised, it's okay because the key is still elsewhere, still with you. So that's what I'll be talking about on Wednesday in that blog post. And then on Friday, going to be doing one all about using Terraform Cloud, deploying into Azure. So you may have seen on some of my other videos, I've had a pet project for Yu-Gi-Oh cards and an inventory system. I actually use Terraform Cloud to deploy all of that. And I think for this video on Friday, I might do some Cloud with Chris related stuff on that one. And then I think that's about it for this week. Oh, no, of course not. There's one more thing this week. On Thursday, then, we have the Welsh Azure User Group, where I'm going to be delivering a lightning talk. So I'm up at 7:15, talking about how GitHub can help in planning, building, and deploying a podcast or blog site. So I'm going to be giving a very condensed version of the kind of 45 minutes, hour talk that I normally give on all of that. But it looks like a really, really great lineup of speakers there. You got Martin Coupland talking about DevSecOps on Microsoft Azure, Murtietta, who's going to be on the show in a few weeks, I believe, and I'm actually on the MS How To show next week. Going to be talking about Visual Studio Code for Azure. Darren Robinson talked about Azure migrations in the real world. Baz Van Kam, ephemeral OS disks and a WVD use case. Shabazz Dar talking about backup Azure files with Veeam. And Rolf McLaughlin talking about from licenses to subscriptions. So starts off at 6:30 there, and approximate close is 8:45. So again, a great week of content, meetups, and various things coming up there. So quite a variety there. So if you're a dev, if you're an infra person, I think there's something there for you. So go ahead, check that one out as well. And then, of course, there's a few things coming up over the coming weeks. I mentioned I'm going to be on Mert's MS How To show next week. That'll be on Thursday. And then I still haven't updated the website. This reminds me I need to go and do that. But then I think it's April the 6th. I'm going to be with the Northern Azure User Group. I might be with another user group that week as well. And then later on in April, going to be with DevOps Not. So April and May are shaping up to be quite busy times as well. So what's going on in the Azure space? We've covered Cloud with Chris. What's going on in the Azure world? There's been a few updates over the last week. I guess the majority happened for Ignite there, of course. But in terms of the blog posts, I'm just going to read all of the blog posts that, or blog post titles that came out. So first off, it was architect and optimize your internet traffic with Azure routing preference or routing, dependent on your locale. Scale your critical applications cost effectively with Azure Disk Storage. Built-in backup management at scale with Backup Center, deliver Java apps quickly using custom connectors in Power Apps, Azure Defender for storage powered by Microsoft Threat Intelligence, digital events extends to the cloud with Azure VMware solution, and advancing failure prediction and mitigation, introducing Naria. So I'm going to just jump into a few of these because I think there were a few that were quite interesting here. And I may have just missed out a couple actually whilst I was reading that. But the first one is all about landing zones and how you choose those. You'll remember a couple of weeks ago, of course, I had that as an episode on the show. We had a great guest, of course, talking about that. So we're going to be not necessarily diving deep into this particular blog post, but this is a really good one just to help you understand, again, that the cloud adoption framework is there, enterprise landing zones in general. Take a look and consider those as part of your cloud journey, because that is something really, really critical along that journey there. Next up, announcing the preview of Azure Trusted Launch for virtual machines. So I think that was quite an interesting announcement, talking about preventing threats like bootkits, rootkits, and those sophisticated types of malware. There's certain virtual machine types that leverage this kind of trusted launch virtual trusted platform module, or VTPM as they call it in Mark Rusinovich's blog post there. And it gives that visibility into the integrity of that underlying boot. Really, really interesting update there. And I think for anyone who's very security conscious, that's something to be worth looking into there. And that one is in preview, by the way. Right, architect and optimize your internet traffic with Azure routing preference. So the long and short of this one is you get the flexibility now of being able to decide, do you want your routing preference to be over the Microsoft Global Network, so that Microsoft backbone, or do you want it to be through your internet routing, so through your ISP? So the ISP route is probably going to be a little more cost effective, whereas the Microsoft routing will probably give you a little bit better performance in terms of latency, they seem to imply in this particular blog post as well. So again, that's something really requirements-based that you might want to consider, take a look at. That might not be for everyone, but now you've got that flexibility and some of that control. So start taking a look through that blog post. Deliver Java apps quickly using custom connectors in Power Apps. This one was quite interesting just because I've been talking quite a lot this week, and I think the same next week actually, about integration and things like API management, logic apps, Azure Functions, etc. And I think Power Apps is a really nice story that fits inside that. You know, this whole idea of low-code application development, this ability to be able to quickly proof of concept out these applications, or even deliver these applications through low-code or no-code scenarios, and being able to integrate them into this kind of wider enterprise integration estate is a really interesting use case. This blog post talks all about how you can deliver Java apps very quickly with these kind of scenarios as well. So again, take a look at this. If you're interested in a low code, no code scenario, want a front end for some of that Java backend, for example, go ahead, take a look at that one. This one next up, Azure Defender for storage powered by Microsoft Threat Intelligence. I think we may have posted about this one from the Azure Updates page previously, but I think it just really deserves a shout out, particularly for this piece here around detecting upload of malware and malicious content. This is something I've seen so many people asking for, and I think this is a great addition to the Azure Defender for storage. I know I've tweeted about this as well, and it's seen a bit of traction with retweeting and likes, so I know this is something which is certainly going to be well loved. So go ahead, take a look at that one as well. Now, the next one, if I just scroll up on the screen here, advancing failure prediction and mitigation, introducing Naraya. This one is interesting. Now, for any of you who like Lord of the Rings, you may know that the Naraya is named after the Ring of Fire, which I thought was quite an interesting project name. And they say they're known to resist the weariness of time. The idea behind Naraya, really, at a high level, is all about being able to use machine learning and intelligence to be able to adjust and mitigate some of these potential challenges that come up with, let's say, machines falling over, hosts falling over, these kind of things. So being able to take the appropriate action proactively, rather than just doing like a, if this then that kind of scenario, effectively, in a rather basic approach, I guess, in terms of dealing with some of those failures. So what they talk about here is the few stages that they approach this with Naraya. Firstly, the failure prediction, the likelihood of the failure happening, then deciding and applying the appropriate mitigation action, having some kind of A/B testing framework. So they'll apply some different scenarios, test it, see if it's the appropriate resolution, and then based on those, they'll apply the most appropriate one. They talk about, for example, a particular scenario that protected a number of customer workloads by doing some live migrations there as well, which again, I think is just really fascinating. When you think about building at scale and you want this resilience, trying to build in this artificial intelligence is a really key part of that. And this is just so interesting. And then they talk about what makes Naraya different to I guess, other approaches they've considered or used or tried before, and then how they're going to keep improving on that even further in the future. So again, if you're interested in how they're approaching that at scale, one to take a look at there. So that's the Azure blogs. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the Azure Updates page. So again, we'll just quickly rattle through these. Azure routing preference is now GA. We've talked about that one. Token lifecycle management is now in private preview with Azure DevOps. And I think we covered that last week, if memory serves me right. New Brazil Southeast region to Azure HD Insight. HD Insight Apache Kafka REST proxy is now GA. Node.js 14 in Azure Functions now GA. The GA of Azure Functions support .NET 5 in production. We'll come back to that one in a moment. Python durable function support in Azure Functions is now GA. Great addition there. Azure Storage routing preferences is now GA, like we mentioned a bit earlier. New Norway East region added to Azure HD Insight. GA for Application Insight in Australia Central 2, GA for Azure Log Analytics in Australia Central 2, and GA for Azure Media Services HEVC encoding support in Standard Encoder. So, a couple of pieces. The token lifecycle management piece is now in private preview. We spoke about that last week. That was the one where there is now a REST API for you to go and manage the lifecycle of your personal access tokens in Azure DevOps. Something I've seen a lot of people asking for. It is now available in private preview though, so go ahead, take a look at the Azure Updates page or the Azure DevOps blog if you're interested in getting access to that. But I think that's a great addition there from the automation perspective. Now, one thing that I mentioned there was the GA of Azure Function support for .NET 5 in production. I tweeted about this, and I had a tweet back from Justin Grote saying that he had a big red flag on this, that there was no durable function support yet. So hopefully when that support is added, it will carry over to PowerShell, which is a basically .NET application, quoting him there. Anthony Chu actually picked that one up, so thank you, Anthony, for jumping in there as well on that discussion. His comments were durable should arrive in PowerShell sooner than .NET isolated. The way the workers are implemented and how durable needs to work with them are very different. So it sounds like we can expect durable functions support for PowerShell to come sooner than .NET 5, but there are some implementation details differences between .NET 5 and what's needed there for durable functions. So, hold tight for that one is what I would say. So what else then? In terms of the Azure DevOps blog, mitigating leaked personal access tokens found on GitHub public repositories. A great addition here. This one is all about the GitHub teams working with the Azure DevOps teams to go ahead and identify if a user has accidentally uploaded into their source code their personal access token. And if they have, they get a notification, and they're even going as far as immediately invoking, I believe, the token. Yeah, if the user themselves hasn't updated the token or revoked the token after 72 hours, they will automatically do it on your behalf. So again, really great addition there from a security perspective. DevOps Fireside Chats Feb 2021, all about infrastructure as code. So a great session there between April Edwards, Jay Gordon, Steve Morosky, and Eric Sorensen. Eric is from Puppet Labs, talking all about infrastructure as code and questions from the community. So there's bits around Azure Bicep there, bits around ARM templates. When should you start using infrastructure as code? Who's it right for? Etc. And do you have it in the same project, multi-repos? How should you consider that? So again, great topic, very relevant topic. Take a look at that one. And then a number of stories from the community. For example, building Azure AD B2C custom policies, Azure DevOps automated builds for that, how Azure can help your company expand in multiple regions, why infrastructure as code, a safe IAC Terraform pipeline with Azure DevOps, and Let's Do DevOps, building an Azure DevOps-based ARM CI/CD for Azure Cloud. So lots of focus there on pipelines and infrastructure as code. And then finally, on the GitHub blogs here, there was a good article at the beginning of this week all about GitHub in Focus, a kind of global series that the GitHub teams are working on. And this one is focusing all around code security and DevSecOps. And there were a good few kind of Q&A questions here just to whet the appetite in terms of the types of areas they'll be focusing in on. So talking about things like application security, DevSecOps, code security, all these other things as well here. So take a look at that one if DevSecOps and security is important to you as part of that development lifecycle. An interesting blog post again earlier in the week, the GitHub teams informing folks about a GitHub security update where they actually logged everyone out of GitHub. So if you were logged out, that is why, because of a very rare scenario where there was a potential vulnerability that the token that you get access to would be delivered to the wrong user. They talk all about that on the blog post there. Very clear in terms of what they did to mitigate that, the potential risk that was there, and there should be a further a further report coming out in the next few weeks reading through this blog post here. So again, if you're interested, go and take a look at that. There was also a Git clone vulnerability announced this week, so March the 9th that came out, and they talk about a security vulnerability in the delayed checkout mechanism used by Git LFS during Git clone operations affecting versions 2.15 and newer. So the recommendation there in terms of mitigation is to upgrade to 2.30.2, and they give some alternate mitigations there if you can't upgrade to that version. So take a look at that one. Next up, GitHub discussions. I think that came out just before Christmas for the public repositories, when it was the kind of GitHub events that happened just in December time. Now they are available for private repositories. So if you want to do that kind of inner sourcing model and have discussions internally, now you can go ahead and do that using GitHub discussions for private repositories. Last but not least, we have scripting with the GitHub CLI. This one, I just wanted to really just raise awareness of it because this, I think, is a really interesting tool. It's not one that I've actually used yet. I'm a big fan of the Azure CLI, cross-platform, use it a great deal. I haven't used the GitHub CLI yet, and it's one that I do need to get my hands on a little bit more, especially with some of the automation work that I'm doing for Cloud with Chris. So really just to call out that it exists, it's there, it's very powerful. If you're watching the video, you can see as I'm scrolling through here a number of the different things it can do. But particularly one of the things that stands out for me is being able to call the GitHub APIs pretty easily, actually, by using the GitHub API. Yes, you could use curl or Postman or something like that. But I'm assuming that using the GitHub API, you get some of the built-in authentication pieces. And they also talk about using pagination and response caching as well built in there. So again, I think a great tool to be aware of there. So that is all really the kind of updates, content, etc. that I'm going to do today. Just one more thing, just want to kind of show you here that actually this new branding here, for example, you can see this is going to carry through to some of the other series. So you can see my Xbox is up screen, kind of in sleep mode at the moment there. But this background that you see here is all going to be used moving forward on Cloud with Chris. So a very consistent brand, making sure that everyone can enjoy the experience with Cloud with Chris. I wasn't quite happy with how it looked previously, some of the backgrounds that I had, etc. And now you can see that we've got this really consistent experience, and I'm really excited to be showcasing this as we move forward here. So there we go. That is the update for weekly vlog number 11. You know what to do. Please go ahead, like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell because you will know as soon as there is brand new content available. And if you don't listen on YouTube, you know that is absolutely fine. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and cloudwithchris.com. And if you are listening on cloudwithchris.com, you get the added benefit of being able to read the transcript in real time as you listen to the audio as well. So with that, thank you for tuning in today. Lots of content coming up, lots of great talks coming up. It's going to be a busy week. Stay tuned. Thank you for listening in, and stay safe, stay healthy. Bye for now.